bring in Valiance here from Moweta from Afrinvest to give us Afrinvest perspectives on the market as we start effectively a full second trading week in the month of April, and that's our Q2. Good morning. Hope you had a weekend.
Yes.
Hope you're not upset here this morning about your club side being thrashed over the weekend. I didn't watch any. I just heard it on the news. It's better. It helps moderate my blood pressure when it comes to football clubs and all that. But I saw a lot of guys arguing over who does what and whether UEFA was trying to be partial to some football club. I think it was Man City that took the cup.
I'm not
big
on football.
Oh, okay, it's good. It's good. That's nice. So let's it's good. It makes two of us. Now you're not sentimental about it, but you're sentimental when it comes to stocks.
Yes.
You keep an eye on stocks.
Yes,
so that means you watch the news very well. And the news that rattled the market last week was about the Oando very quickly. And investors came really strong for this company once the news hit the wire.
Yeah. Given the fact that the SEC decided to lift the ban on their shares, the trading, we saw a lot of investors actually try to take position in that stock, and we could largely that sentiment could largely be attributable to the fact that so far the oil and gas index, companies in the oil and gas index have actually performed positively. You know, coming from 2016 where we had a lot of foreign exchange constraints, and the year prior to that there were issues with peace in the Niger Delta, but all that moderated in 2017, and as such we saw that these companies actually posted very positive earnings. You're looking at the likes of Seplat, Forte, you know, those companies. So it was
number one.
Yes, it was, yeah, Mobile, yeah. So it was only natural that investors, when this ban was lifted, investors flocked into quote-unquote the next big oil and gas stock, you know, in anticipation for their earnings. If you can remember, their earnings are not out yet because there was a delay because of this suspension and the issues they had with the SEC. So I think that reaction was investors trying to lock in quickly before.
In the same week, as I'm cutting in there respectfully, please, was Oando Board of Directors also approved last week the financial statements that were expected. So all that seemed to be, so news and earnings seem to be a catalyst for the oil and gas space.
Definitely. You know, we had anticipated that when the announcement of the earnings results comes out, because initially they had left it open and they said they would announce it pending when the SEC concludes their investigation, but when the news was released, it could now speak to the fact that, oh, okay, they are done with what they decided to do, and we are moving forward. So as such,
we're taking on the investigators. That's what Oando's folks must have said. We're taking on the investigators. They are allowed in. Let them do their job. Meantime, as a company, we're moving forward. We're releasing our earnings. They held a board meeting. It was approved. Then they're sticking with second week in May for the release of this earnings, bearing any other unforeseen occurrence. But right now we have about 30 days.
Yeah, and also bearing in mind that soon after their full year results come out, their Q1 results are also expected to come in just about the same time. So the outlook for Oando is pretty positive. But then again, it still depends on, you know, Nigerian investors have a very funny way of reacting. So they rush in, and if earnings are not as impressive as they thought, the company's share price is going to suffer, because we are going to start seeing a whole lot of sell-offs with the same volumes and drive that boosted it in the first place is going to decline sharply. I hope that's not the case for Oando.
That they just have to, the numbers would meet the expectations on outlook that this company was held down for about 170 days, which seemed to be a record on matters of this nature.
Definitely.
But again, beyond Oando, if we're tracking Oando and the leadership change at the SEC, do you expect anything significant this morning? We all seem to have slept over the leadership change of Friday, and this morning perhaps our heads would have been a bit cooler from investors, local and foreign, but still watching what the Ministry of Finance is doing with the SEC and how the new SEC team, so technically speaking, would move from here.
Well, the management of Oando, so far, there hasn't been any criminal offense brought against anybody, at least to my knowledge. And I think that the management is going to keep doing what they are doing. They are going to keep trying to leave the make sure the company stays profitable. So in the long run, yes, there may be new regulations, there may be stricter regulations by the SEC and the Ministry of Finance. There may be some requirements of more transparency as it were, because they had issues with their share structure and people complaining, oh, I bought shares in Oando, but it's reflecting as Oando somewhere else. Those kind of issues.
But what do you expect the new SEC leadership to hit the ground running from this morning?
Yes, I do. You know, they as much as they would want to make sure that there's a smooth transition, there's also that factor of want to be seen, to know what they are doing, and also want to be seen to take a proper hard stance if the need be. So yes, they are going to hit the ground running.
Because all eyes will be on the SEC right now.
Yes, everybody's what next?
What
is
next?
The question. What
next at the SEC in terms of confidence, in terms of rebuilding?
Yeah. And which is very important too, because if you look at what that speaks to investor confidence, by the time investors are certain that regulators know what they are doing and they are doing what is right, it gives you some kind of respite that, okay, you're not investing in companies that are not properly managed or are not properly regulated. So them wanting to make a show would definitely also speak to investor confidence.
I like that. Know what you're doing and be sure what you're doing is right.
Yes.
It looks like a flip side of the same coin. Not just know what you're doing
and make sure what you're doing is actually right.
What you're doing is right. That's the underline. And you're doing it timely. Let me just add that at the bottom. But again, if we just put Oando and the SEC on one side, but of course the big story before we leave the SEC is that I was surprised, but I've been so pleasantly surprised that the CMC meeting is going on as planned and it's going to be this week.
Well,
we got that notice here yesterday over the weekend.
Yes, and that then again it still speaks to the fact that the company is moving on. They are going to,
the SEC.
Yes, they are going to keep doing what they are doing, and at the end of the day, it still boils down to what new regulations are going to come in. Are we going to see some form of new law on maybe share structure or share ownership and the likes? But so far, I don't think there's going to be any huge penalty for Oando. So, and regardless of that, Nigerian investors were very sentimental. So if I'm going to make money, I really don't care if they are changing the management or
give me a return.
Just give me
me returns on investment. It all boils down to this, and we all know what it means. So Q1 was about, we can look back at Q1, not significantly happy Q1, but what should I look forward to in Q2? Okay, so in Q2, we think that Q1 earnings is actually going to be the major driver of performance for the second quarter. If we remember, so Q1 performance was a kind of extension of the positive performance we saw in 2017. You know, there were improved macro conditions. The oil and gas sector was booming. We had peace in the Niger Delta. So all these factors cumulated into the positive performance we saw in the equities market. And as such, it filtered into the first month of the year. As of January, we were up at about 17%. We're one of the top performing indices in the world as of January this year. You know, so looking at Q2 2018, we know that positive performance of a lot of these companies, we're talking about companies in the banking sector, consumer goods, industrial goods. So far, a lot of them have actually released very impressive full year 2017 earnings. So we think that momentum is actually going to be sustained into the first quarter of Q1. So by the time Q1 earnings results actually come out, we expect them to be very positive. While that is going on one hand, on the flip side, you're also looking at average volumes that have been traded. So as of December last year, average volume that was traded was about 452 million in that region. And we saw a spike in January to about 960 million average volume. But then again, there was a moderation by February and by March, and even down to April, it's down to about 357 million on average. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the volume of transactions is actually declining. If you also remember, there has... the question is why? Yeah. Okay, so it's a number of things. Here, first off is the fact that a large volume of investors that are playing in the Nigerian market are actually foreign investors.
So we saw total foreign inflow for February actually decline by about 51%. So what does that say? Foreign investors are no longer as active. I mean, for an investor that came in this time last year, he has made probably 40–50% return on his investment. So there is no need to still stay put in the market. And also considering the fact that 2018 is a pre-election cycle, there is a lot of uncertainty going on.
Are investors holding back their purse a little bit or zipping it up just a little?
It's a
very small window.
So it's a waiting game. While we saw that there was a decrease in inflow, we also saw that there was also a decrease in outflow. That means the money is not going out. It's still here. But they aren't playing as actively as they were in the first quarter from December to January.
Put the money in the markets, put the money in equities, hold on a second, fold hands, and watch the game.
Exactly. So, but now again, since they have exited their positions, what we envisage is they are waiting for Q1 2018 figures. So if they are positive, we're going to see that volatility come back in again.
To the upside.
Yes, to the upside. Because at the end of the day, sad as it may seem, our local investors actually mirror the performance of our foreign investors. So if foreign investors are selling down, locals too will start selling. But then again, this is where the volumes conflict. Foreign investors play at a larger volume than our domestic, both retail and institutional. So when foreign investors are no longer active, the trading volumes within the local investors is actually minimal. And if we keep seeing that sell-off, market is going to continue to plummet. So
my thinking is, where would I still see that volatility to the upside this year? Second quarter, part of third quarter, before the political waters get too hot to handle.
The concern is that by the second half of the year, it's now is going to be we're in a full election cycle, because there will be less attention paid to governance, quote unquote, and more attention.
The Minister of Finance will disagree with you.
She
said there will be no. They're going to focus on the economy, and that they will not leave the economy on the sidewalk.
She's not a career politician. She's not vying for public office. You know, she has a job to do regardless of what is going on in the political scene. So I definitely believe her when she says her own focus is going to be on the economy and making sure that, you know, they don't allow any leakages or any issues that may arise.
They're not going to happen. For example, they're going to let the VATs go. They're going to make sure every money comes in. So she has an eye on the money. And then when she says, I'm focusing on the money, and of course she has a boss who likes to focus on the money as well. Let's leave it there. You are in the money this morning. Let's see how things go on the first trading day of the week. Thank you very much, Valiance Moweta, an investment research analyst at Afrinvest.